You know, some directors get famous because of what they have made, and other directors get famous because of what was made for them. And still other directors get famous because saying their name at a dinner party makes you seem more sophisticated than you actually are. So tonight, we are finally going to talk about 10 directors who are in one way or another just a little bit overhyped and, dare I say, overrated. Now, I really love some of the directors on this list, so this isn't about hating on these people. It's about being honest when it comes to the gap between the reputation and the actual reasons and resume behind it. 10 directors, let the arguments begin. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so before we get to this is a highly requested video here on the channel. So if you get mad, it's your own fault. But we're going to start this off. And these aren't really ranked, kind of a loose ranking, but kicking us off right here is Zack Snyder. And yeah, I got the Justice League in my hand. This one is one that is kind of a love-hate. This started the whole bros thing. Like, you've got Snyder bros. That alone should tell you something about the gap between the cult and that devotion and the actual quality. Zack Snyder has a very distinctive visual style. Slow motion, heavy color grading, a sort of operatic, over-the-top sense of scale. And when that is deployed in service of something that it should be, then, like, we're talking like Watchmen or even Sucker Punch here, then even for all its flaws and your complaints, it actually works. But Snyder's stuff actually doesn't work well in moderation, and it doesn't work well on movies where the tone doesn't belong. So his DCU run, the characters, what he did here, making Superman dark and brooding, that consistency of his style, the Snyder cut of this film just oozes all of that style over any kind of substance. It's almost like he doesn't care about the stories at all. Everything feels grim, and it's like, oh man, here's another slow motion sequence. Here's another slow motion sequence. Now listen, I like some of his films. I like Snyder. I actually like The Man of Steel better now than I did. I like his movies better than I did overall. But man, the people who love him, just every opportunity they can, oh, the Snyderverse is coming back. I'm like, y'all, it wasn't that good to begin with. It's just better than anything we've got since. But that's like, you know, really lowering the bar. It's because you're starving to death. Anything tastes good. And then he gives us also stuff like Rebel Moon, films that took the worst of his tendencies and his style and sort of overindulged with them. He is not the auteur that people, especially his like hardest core fans, think he is. He has a definite recognizable style, and that I appreciate, but man, just a little bit overhyped. Now, the next one is one that a lot of people probably have. It's M. Night Shyamalan. And listen, The Sixth Sense is awesome. I love Signs, but he has spent his whole entire career, particularly since Sixth Sense, trying to recreate that same formula, trying to be known and recreate that ending, right? That big surprise ending. And you just can't do it. You can't go to that well that many times. And it becomes a crutch that he tries to repeat again and again and again. The twists stop working. People are waiting on the twist. They're looking for the twist. So nothing kind of works out the same. The last movie he made wasn't good. And it's just like, I feel bad because I think he's a talented guy. And I still think because of that, those films that have done the best, he is elevated higher than he should, but he has really become a one-trick pony, and he cannot completely repeat the trick. So gotta have M. Night Shyamalan here. Oh boy, the next one is probably gonna ruffle some feathers, but yeah, it's George Lucas. And listen, here's something I have discovered painfully, that a lot of casual fans, normies if you want to call them, they think he directed more movies than he did. They think he directed all the Star Wars movies. A lot of people actually think he directed Indiana Jones, believe it or not. He didn't direct all of those movies. He did direct Star Wars. He directed American Graffiti. And he directed in the prequels. And I give him credit for what he did. But man, he did not direct Empire Strikes Back, the best Star Wars film. He didn't even direct Return of the Jedi. And he damn sure didn't direct the Indiana Jones movies. That's Steven Spielberg. So his actual filmography is just not as big when it comes to directors as you think. And you have to go back to like whatever THX, like his early, like that's almost like a student film. He's widely considered to be this great director and creator, and it's really mostly on the original Star Wars. And he probably would not have directed this himself had he had the money to have somebody else do it at the time. But the ones that a lot of people still associate with him, yes, he created that world, he produced them, but he did not direct them. So that alone kind of has elevated him, because he's associated with these movies. It's elevated him beyond like what he really is as a director, not a creative person, not a person with imagination, not a person who can make these things come to life by any stretch of imagination, but as a director, yeah, the reputation that's going along with him, it isn't really his as far as directing comes along. So he's not one of the greatest directors of all time, even though he's directed one of the greatest films of all time with Star Wars. That's like his biggest feather in the cap, and he just doesn't have a lot to go along with it. He passed that work off to other people. So much as I love George Lucas for giving us Star Wars, he's got to be here. All right, and next up, listen, I'm just going to tell you, I really like this director overall, but Tim Burton, he's got to be here, right? Tim Burton has to be here because everything he does looks immediately like a Tim Burton movie, and it all looks the same. It's got that German surrealist, impressionistic sort of look to it all, and he sort of developed this situation over the course of his career where he has the same cast, he has the same kind of weird quirkiness to his cast, the same color palette, all of it is the same. Alice in Wonderland, Dumbo, everything that came later. He's got Helen Bonham Carter in it, he's got Johnny Depp in it, and everything has this gothic, whimsical feel to it. And it's great style overall, but it is just kind of the same thing again and again. And I would like to know if there's something else he can do, because you don't really see it, right? Overall, it is the same. It has become the dominant thing throughout his career. And I just think that kind of, everybody's, oh, so Tim Burton film. And I'm like, what does that mean? I think the one outlier, which still had a lot of the same cast and a different look, is Big Fish. I would like to see him operate more a little bit from that place, but he's just got to be in the little bit overhyped category for me. Oh boy, the next one, it's one I've talked about on here before. I'm just going to go out with it. It is Robert Eggers. And listen, Robert Eggers has become like the patron saint of a very specific kind of film fan. Overall, not everyone, but overall as a general rule, it's the film fan that needs you to know exactly how sophisticated they are and that they watch elevated horror rather than regular horror down here with us plebes. And The Witch, The Lighthouse, Nosferatu, films that are very meticulous for the most part when it comes to historical research and period accurate stuff, though he still gets things wrong. But he goes with atmosphere, and normally I would like that, but the atmosphere doesn't always land. It just becomes stagnant and the atmospheres repeat. Every movie is easily identifiable as a Robert Eggers film because the way it looks, the drawn out shots, the over lengthy self-important shots of I'm filming the woods, and if I film it long enough, you'll be convinced it's very, very artistic and scary, and you'll tell your friends that, oh, it's pure cinema. No, it's not. It's just a shot that's too long, and that's all it is. But he commits to it. You got to give him that. The slow burn, hyper, like he wants to be a period aficionado on everything, but it is prioritized often over story, over character development, all of that. And it has like he goes for that folk horror of dread and hopelessness that is all the rage right now, and he uses historical wallpaper to cover it up with. He has become in himself sort of a social currency for a lot of people. Proof that you appreciate slow art house, intelligent films, not, instead of something like Return of the Living Dead. And it's sort of become like a populist tendency within the genre, a subgenre, and that currency has limits, and it limits the viewing experience, and the films themselves are not really living up to that. They all look the same, feel the same. It looks like a Robert Eggers film, not a horror film about a witch, not a horror film about a vampire. It just looks like a Robert Eggers film. Same cast, same stuff. He's fallen into that Tim Burton trap. Robert Eggers. Now, the next one, I'm going to be honest, I never got the appeal of Woody Allen. It's a name that everybody knows. I just never got the appeal. His movies are not in my wheelhouse at all. I don't see it. I feel like he straddles genres, and he has a body of work that has, it's been important in American independent film and comedies. But here's the honest question I would ask people. When is the last time you really watched and enjoyed one of his films, or even knew about one of his films? Did you know that was specifically a Woody Allen film? His reputation is built mostly on historical, name-invoked film school conversations and best of lists, rather than a filmmaker whose films generate new cultural anticipation, new cultural discussions, any of that. Every year for decades, you're going to see him in film schools, and film school people are going to talk about him. But at large, he's not relevant, but he is hyped up in those certain circles. The name carries weight for sure, but the actual engagement, the real life value of his work is kind of overhyped. Not bad films exactly, just a detachment from the actual current cultural relevance. Woody Allen, sorry. All right, and next up, I'm just going to pull the one film I own from this guy, and it was given to me as a gift because I am no fan of Jordan Peele. Listen, you can talk about how great you think his films are and everything. All I see is him ripping off Rod Serling every single chance he got, and then taking credit for being super original. And that bothers me because I am a huge Twilight Zone fan. Get Out, Us, Nope. Listen, I will say that he has said that he was really inspired by the Twilight Zone. He did his own Twilight Zone short-lived series where he changed everything, but everything he does is through a hyper one-sided, cultural experience, and it is very divisive, which is things I don't like on here. But what bothers me the most is his films are direct pulls. They're not inspired by, they're direct pulls from Twilight Zone episodes that he's acknowledged for the most part. But then the film criticism gives him credit for being genuinely groundbreaking and creative and original. And it's giving him cultural credit for inventing something that he didn't do, that Rod Serling did years before. His films are all that, in my opinion. That's the trap they fall into. And honestly, I'm just not a fan. All right, so the next one, it needs some clarification. So stay with me here. Don't come into the comments and say I said something I didn't say, or how did you have this person on this list? I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm saying because Akira Kurosawa is on this list. And Kurosawa, listen, this has less to do with his filmmaking overall in any way, but Kurosawa was an extraordinary director. He absolutely was. Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Rashomon, foundational works of world cinema that everyone should see, everyone should know, and everybody has been influenced by in some way or another, from George Lucas to Sergio Leone to Martin Scorsese, everybody. But what I'm really criticizing here is Kurosawa has also become sort of a social signal over the last 20, 25 years that by invoking Kurosawa's name, there is a cultural currency that goes along with that too. Proof that you're a serious cinephile rather than a casual moviegoer or a normie or a mainstream fan or blah, whatever kind of ugly words you want to throw out there, people that just like fun movies too. But these are people oftentimes that have seen very, very little of his actual filmography, but they will reference him constantly. They'll point out his influence in other films and other filmmakers, like they've made some kind of sophisticated observation without acknowledging the irony that Kurosawa himself was deeply and openly influenced and tried to emulate the great John Ford, an American Western filmmaker for the most part. He was not working in a vacuum of pure original genius. He was part of an influence the same way every other filmmaker is in some way. And honestly, it's worth asking, how many people invoking Kurosawa as a status symbol would choose to pick one of his 3-hour plus long black and white films to be entertained and have fun with on a Friday or Saturday night rather than just a fun action movie or a comedy? Or are they picking it just so that they can have other people see them pick it or talk about how they picked it? That is the actual question here. Listen, it's not that Kurosawa is a failure or he himself is overhyped or overrated in any way. He made his films with complete integrity, inspired by whoever he was inspired by. But the failure of the culture to distinguish that and to use his name as a sort of badge that people wear rather than actually engaging with his films and being honest about his films is so exhausting, overhyped. It's just overhyped. It was the same when I was teaching film. It's like if you invoke this name, you somehow, we're going to get an A. And that's just not it. All right, now we're heating up because Christopher Nolan is on this list. And listen, I like Christopher Nolan. I love The Dark Knight. I love Batman Begins. I don't like the third Batman movie that much, The Dark Knight Rises. But listen, Nolan has his Nolan bros too, and they're going to be put to the test very soon with The Odyssey, because I think he's going off the rails with that one as someone who taught ancient Greek history. But his current cultural standing outshines what he's actually done. Because The Dark Knight, yes, The Dark Knight is widely considered one of the best films of the 2000s. But a significant portion of why that has to do with Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. A performance so extraordinary that it delivered him an Oscar in the such tragic circumstances of it. And Nolan has kind of been riding the wave of that, because Batman Begins didn't have all that with Nolan. But Nolan has an enormous fan base now off of a cultural moment of this film largely, and it's sort of incongruent with the actual films that he's made overall since then. People also use his name to impress people. Interstellar is a good movie, but he has a real problem, even in Oppenheimer, with writing and having people act like actual human beings would in certain situations. Oppenheimer is good, and it reasserted his filmmaking credentials, but it arrived nearly 15 years after his fan base treated him like everything he was doing was an automatic masterpiece. Tenet makes no sense whatsoever. I dare you to try to explain that movie. You can glean what you want to from it, but it's not good. He's a technically skilled filmmaker, but the intensity of his fan base and the way they lift him up, it's largely due to this film right here, and he has benefited from something that wasn't completely his now for almost 2 decades or so. Christopher Nolan, I think he's going to have a rough time with the Odyssey. It might make a lot of money because they pre-sold tickets a year in advance before all the controversy came out, and they're really trying to push it. They're cutting off pre-screenings. They're trying to do everything they can, and he will have his Nolan bros that will watch it and defend it no matter what, but he is a very overhyped director. I love that he loves physical media. There's things I love about him, but it doesn't go along with what he's actually done, in my opinion. All right, and the last one on the list. This one's probably going to shock a few of you, but it is Ryan Coogler. And listen, I made notes on this one because I wanted to be accurate in this story I tell, because what spurred me to go ahead and do this list was you guys, number one, wanting it, but also I saw an interview, an awards acceptance from Ryan Coogler at Sundance. And I have to tell you, this has all been said publicly, and this made me lose a lot of respect for Coogler and really does put him in the seriously overrated and overhyped category. So Ryan Coogler was accepted into the Sundance Institute's filmmaking labs. It was based on a pitch for a film about something that, let's just say, it was culturally relevant at the time, and the subject matter was hot, and so the Institute was eager to support it. Coogler stated in his own words that once he was accepted, he couldn't get the script together. He didn't know. He couldn't write it. He said he was too distracted living at home with his parents, and so he contacts the Sundance Institute, and they proceed to set him up with an apartment and a car for him and his fiancée so that he could focus on the script.
The support from the labs was ongoing. Continued support. When I left the Sundance labs and I went back to continue to make my film, Michelle was constantly calling me to check in. Hey, what do you need? What do you guys got going? I was still living at home with my parents in a house with 7 people. It was impossible to make a film in that circumstance. But I get a call from Michelle, and she says, "Hey, man, we're able to support you through a grant process, and with this money, you can get your own place." So I was able to get my own place to live. It was amazing. You know what I mean? Me and my fiance got our own place, and I was writing. Able to work on the script, able to work with talent in the cast. It didn't stop there.
He still needed some help with that, so they provided him help with the script. And then it came time for him to actually shoot the film. And he really didn't know how to do that at a professional level. So they provided him with cinematographer and camera operators to guide the production. And then when it came time to actually figure out how he was going to do this, he wanted to shoot on film, but he didn't know how to do that either. He wanted it to have, in his words, a tactile, real feel to it. So he wanted to shoot on film, but he didn't have the money or the knowledge to do that. So they brought in people that could help do that, and they contacted Kodak and got all the film donated to him and the processing donated to him.
They said, "Hey, who do you need for cinematographers? We can set you up with that." When it was time for me to shoot, I wanted to shoot film. I wanted to give the story a tactile feel. Film is expensive. They had relationships with Kodak. They were able to set that up for me. Got us to shoot film.
So now he had all that handed to him and people doing this work for him. Then once they finished, it was time for him to edit, and he didn't know how to do that either. So they got editors to help him do that.
The biggest thing that was most important was to shoot the film in the Bay Area. They were able to help cut costs, provide grants, so that we shot the film at home. We made the film that we wanted to see. It didn't stop there. We needed somebody to edit the movie when we were done. We had no money at the time. Sundance Labs reached out, and they said, "Hey, we can give you guys funding to bring the editors up that you need, the editors that you want, right there in the Bay Area." And the support continues, and it continues, and continues.
And then when that was finished, through all the institutional support at every single level of the production and pre-production, the Sundance Institute then accepted the film into their own prestigious film festival and gave it awards. And that is how Ryan Coogler got started. And I just want to tell you this, is I'm not trying to like bash on Coogler or anything, but when you talk about a reputation outstretching the reality of it, that's the kind of thing you have with that situation right there. So Coogler discussed this. You can go find it on YouTube. If I can find it, I'll try to put some in here if I can. I don't know if copyright will let me do that. But as a filmmaker who spent over 2 decades making independent movies and breaking into it and having to write and shoot and edit and finance and do all that kind of stuff myself, I can tell you what happened here is honestly not the way the movie industry works for almost anyone trying to break into it. So it's not just an advantage that he had, it's having an entire skill set sort of guided and provided to you by an institution, then being credited as though you possessed all those skills and you did it all yourself. That's the definition of like overhyping or overrated, in my opinion. And it kind of repeats with Creed. If you look at Creed, yeah, he directed it with Stallone right there helping. He wrote some of the script, but Stallone also had to rewrite the script and edit it. But listen, he's had a lot of people help him along the way in very like hands-on ways. So Sinners is a good film. You see me holding it. I enjoyed it. It's heavy-handed with its messaging too, but it sort of received the same sort of outsized cultural reception that Black Panther did. Like, these things overhyped for reasons that don't necessarily have to do with what's on screen. Again, they're talking about groundbreaking because Michael B. Jordan's playing 2 roles. Van Damme did that years ago. That's been done a bunch of times. That's not anything new. But it's just one of those things. His whole story that he said himself, like, that's not a singular talent rising on its own that's being lifted up the way it is. That's a story about an institution and mentors, like really guiding someone every step of the way and then crediting them specifically like they did it all themselves. That makes him just a little bit overhyped and overrated, in my opinion. And I don't know, like it's just one of those things that I saw that and I thought, man, I don't believe I'd told that out loud. But anyway, Ryan Coogler, I hate it, but he's here. So there you go. 10 directors that are just a little, where their reach exceeds their grasp, so to speak. The reality and the reputation do not exactly sync up, and sometimes it has nothing to do with them at all, as like with Kurosawa, it has nothing to do with them. And this isn't about hating on anyone. You guys have been asking for it. I've been thinking about it. This is my take on it, and I stand by it. And that's what I got for you this time. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, hype the video. That helps it out. And if you want to help a little bit more and you enjoy what we're doing here, my Patreon link is in the description. There you'll get behind the scenes, in-depth looks at these films, looks at my filmmaking, all my past live streams and members only videos, and so much more, and everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. It's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.